Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we have a brand new video, which is kind of a mix of Saadelive and a mix of Sade's Cantina kind of together. Just changing the format kind of a little bit. I don't know, because it performs well when I do switch it up a little from how I normally do with Sade's Cantina. So yeah, except this is only Star Wars, so then the video typically performs better. Yeah, so I have a few questions from you guys, and as you guys who watch me know, I kind of spiral and go to different topics, which will probably happen. But yeah, we have some things to talk about, and I have a list of questions here, kind of just randomized in order that I'm gonna go off of, and yeah. So to get us started, what is your favorite Star Wars trilogy? I haven't actually answered this before, really, to anyone. Um, yeah, really anyone in the past 6 months. Because before I'd always say prequels, 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 prequels. Now it's not just prequels anymore. The original trilogy is so, as I've studied it more and I've, really dived into the character of Luke Skywalker, it's hard to just say prequels, that's not, I don't know. It's the problem is that question's always complicated because there are things that I just absolutely love from both. Like the original trilogy is a much more straightforward story, easy to comprehend. It's just like from A to B to C. But the prequels are much more complex. There's a lot more layers, there's a lot more gaps, and I love that just as much as it being straightforward. So it's like there are things like that, and I love Luke, almost as much as I love Anakin now. So I don't know. It's just really hard to pick one over the other, because I grew up with both of them. I didn't just grow up with the prequels, and I didn't just grow up with the originals, right? So I had both of them kind of the whole time. Now obviously this whole everyone loving the prequels over the originals thing is kind of annoying. Because it's people thought we were crazy for loving the prequels, back in the day, even in my age, back in 2013, 2014 when I was a kid. That was weird. You're like, why do you like those ones, right? Like Darth Vader's not even in it. Like, why do you like those ones? And I have been a prequel fan since day one. Before it was cool to like the prequels, I liked the prequels. And now it's been kind of diluted by the fandom, where I have all these aesthetic lightsaber people on Instagram and I'm sure TikTok and all over the place who Anakin's my favorite character and I love the prequels, and they know nothing about Star Wars. It's I hate that that's a thing now, because the prequels are so much deeper in lore than the original trilogy is. I don't know. It's just obnoxious that you have these people now don't even know the story, and then they give the prequels an image now because they're Disney shills, and then it's I feel like I'm being Gen Z and freaking, I don't know. It's weird. It's this whole thing that started. Theory, I think, kind of knows about it too. But it's something I really noticed a while ago and caught on to a while ago before everyone else, that I was like, oh no, this is gonna be annoying. And it's no, it's I don't know. I feel like their opinions, they're not their own. I don't know. It's so weird. I love that people accept and love the prequels now. That's not my issue. My issue is the fake fans who say they love the prequels over the originals, and then they call the originals boring, and all, once they start going that direction, then I know they're kind of a fake fan, because it's I don't know, that's just such an insane thing to say. Episode 4 is not a boring movie in any way, shape, or form. There's no point in that movie that is slow. Episode 5, if you're not into the Force and you're not into Yoda, I could understand you saying that one gets slow. Or when they're on, Hoth at the beginning, I could understand that. Episode 6, when they're on Endor, kind of exploring the planet for a bit and being in the Ewok village, sure, okay. But that was all there to build the story, you know? So I get, people can have their opinions, of course, but to be like, oh, they're just boring, like, oh, like that's not true. I don't know. Like, I'd love to hear from one of them on how the original trilogy is boring. Like, it's the most, like, I don't know. I feel like episode 4 is at a much faster pace than episode 1, And that's the other thing, too. When they say prequels, they're not talking about Phantom Menace. They're talking about episode 2 and 3. And it's like you're leaving a whole movie out, guys. And then episode 2, it's just because they like the dynamic between Anakin and Padme. They don't care about the lore or anything else. And then they love episode 3. And again, back in my day, episode 3 has always been my favorite. And I got a lot of flack for that. And now, like, everyone's favorite is episode 3. It's, like, so annoying. I'm like, dude, goodness gracious Lord. And again, they're just saying it because it's trendy. But once the trend switches to another movie, let's say the trend now is everyone's favorite as episode 4, then all these aesthetic TikTok people will say, you know what? I really like 4. 4 is my favorite now, right? It's like the fakeness. The fakeness has really affected, I don't know. It, like, gives things an image now, and it's, like, annoying. I don't know. Yeah, but that is something I wanted to talk about, and I probably have before, but it's like this weird thing with all the, like, shill fake fans and the mostly Saber girls all over the internet who just say, I love the prequels, and don't know a single thing about Star Wars. If you go, who's Boss Nass? They're not going to know who he is. If you're like, what happens in Attack of the Clones at this plot point? They're not going to know. It's like, why am I supposed to know who Boss Nass is? He's a main focal point in episode 1. He's the, like, leader of the Gungan army. He's the leader of, that he's the only reason why the Naboo could defeat the Separatists, well, at that time just Trade Federation, at the Battle of Naboo in the Phantom Menace. He's the only reason why. If they didn't have the Gungans, they would have lost. They didn't have the resources or troops because the Naboo were pacifist people. That alone, that explanation, is more than any of these Saber people could give you. They'll be like, oh, I like episode 1 because Duel of the Fates, Darth Maul, it's like, dude, what is that, Weekend Warrior, right? Like, it's so annoying. It's just annoying. It really bothers me. It's like, if you can't tell me one reason why you like a certain movie, it just proves to me that you have not really seen it or have seen it once in your entire life and therefore do not care. Right? It's all these people sponsored by Saber Theory and what's the other one? Imperial Workshop. And they're like sponsored to act like Star Wars fans and they're not. Like, there's actually a lot of those, and those are the scariest ones because they like say all these things, but it's scripted. It's like you watch this, there's also something kind of similar to that with the Skeleton Crew interview. All 4 kids say their dad introduced them to Star Wars and they saw episode 4 and they liked it. They couldn't tell you a single reason why they liked it. They just said it's iconic and it's great. Episode 4, dad. Every single one of them. Like, there was not one differentiation. I'm like, that's odd. And then one of these kids refers to Darth Vader as Darth. Like, who refers to Darth Vader as Darth? Like, what? It's like all the scripted fake BS. It's like actually killing me. It really is. It is just wrecking this fandom from the inside out. So, and when Amanda Stenberg, went around in her Revenge of the Sith shirt for advertising, and when Leslie Headland said stuff about liking the prequels, but 3 months earlier she talked crap on George Lucas. It's like, I cannot with fakeness. Like, it's actually gonna be the end of me. Like, these fake people, dude. It's like, be honest. I am so raw and unfiltered and honest about Star Wars, and I explain why I like things and why I don't like things. I'm not just like, I don't like it, don't give any explanation. Because trust me, there are people who do that too, who say, oh, I don't like it, with no explanation. Just as, the people who say, I do like it, with an explanation, right? It's like, it's so weird. Like, this fandom is not the same. When I was a kid, it was such a different thing. Like, people were serious, and if you saw someone in a Star Wars shirt, that was like a code, like a signal. Like, dude, it's a fan. It's a fan. You go up to them, you talk to them, they are a fan. Now you see someone in a Star Wars shirt, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen the movies one time. I thought they were cool. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't understand. It's become like cool now, and I hate it. I hate it. It's actually awful. Because it's not cool enough to be, cool enough to be accepted by, like, everyone, but it's cool enough for the basic, level of kid. Like, the popular idiots still hate it, but, like, those middle ground people, like, use it as an aesthetic, and it drives me insane. Like, it actually drives me insane. I'm like, what is this? And then you ask them, like, the most simple question. Like, what was it? Oh yeah, someone didn't know who Watto was. I'm like, and they said they love episode 1. I'm like, I somehow I brought up Watto because I thought, just think he's hilarious, and I brought up Watto. They're like, who's that? What do you mean, who's Watto? Again, central focal point of episode 1, whether you like it or not. He is the slave owner of Anakin Skywalker, and the bet between him and Qui-Gon is the bet for Anakin's freedom. It's the game for Anakin's freedom. He is very prevalent in that film. Like, very, very prevalent in that film. And he's in episode 2. And he's iconic and funny and weird. So it's like, I don't understand. If you've seen these movies, you can't tell me who Watto is. Like, honestly, it's like you're a fake fan. Like genuinely. And I mean that. It's ridiculous. Like, it's Watto. It is like, this is not, I'm not like, who's Ben Quadraneros? I don't expect you to know that. Watto? Like, come on, man. Everyone knows who Watto is, whether they've seen the movies or not. It's like, they see him in memes. And at this point, Ben Quadraneros is becoming, like, well-known. Because people finally appreciate the prequels and spend time to learn about them. But, yeah, it's like, I don't get how you don't know who Watto is if you've seen Star Wars. Like, that's just, it's so weird. It's so weird. These people. And then you have, like, that's another idiot go, what's an Ewok? And they said they like Return of the Jedi. I'm like, what? Like, our fandom is being sabotaged right now. Like, these tourist fake fans walk in the doors and they go, oh yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. No, you're not. You cannot you can't tell me what an Ewok is. And it's not like I'm quizzing them like I'm annoying. I'm just having a conversation about the movie. And then they say something like that, and then my whole perception of them as a fan just shifts. I'm like, how could you not know what an Ewok was? Again, that is a huge, huge piece of Return of the Jedi, and that was a controversial piece back then, because a lot of the, like, 30-year-old snotty film people didn't like the Ewoks, and they're like, this is childish, this is whatever. And it's like, that's a huge piece of Return of the Jedi. Endor and Ewoks is what, like, there's things that define all 6 films. Endor, green, Luke Skywalker, Ewoks, that's like Return of the Jedi. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are things, like, to me, Revenge of the Sith, it's like Mustafar, Grievous, Utapau, Anakin turning to the dark side. That's like, each film has its own identity, like its own vibe almost, and there are like things that define the vibe of the movie. Ewoks is Return of the, like, that is Return of the Jedi, right? Like, I don't understand how you could like the movie and say you've seen it, not know what Ewoks are. Like, come on. This is the BS. It's like, I hate I hate to be a gatekeeper, but honestly I have to at this point, because these people, they're not fans. They know nothing. They know nothing, and they call themselves a fan. It's like, no, no, you're not. I'm not even asking a lot. I'm not like, oh, you need to know the whole plot line from episode 1 to episode 6, all the way through thoroughly. You have to know the main characters. You have to understand the plot. That's not even what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what makes you a fan is if you see the movies and you really like them and you really put time into Star Wars. That is what a fan is. But if you can't tell me what an Ewok is, you are not a fan. I hate to break it to you. Like, what? Are you an Empire Strikes Back fan? Which we'll get to this later. Sure, great. But are you a Star Wars fan? No. You like one part of the story because it fit your vibe or whatever, and you vibed with it. Great. One movie out of this. So out of this, you're calling yourself a fan of this, but you really only like this, or maybe this. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, it's so stupid. But yeah, these people have really, these aesthetic, whatever, stupid fake fans have ruined so far, not ruined, but like given this weird layer to Return of the Jedi, which again, I loved as a kid. It was, for me, for ages, it was Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi were my two favorites. And again, even Return of the Jedi, that was not considered, like, you had to say Empire was your favorite back in the day. Like, it was like, you would be weird if you didn't say that, It was this whole stupid thing. Now that's not true anymore. Now it's like, you can say whatever, but majority of people will say 3 or 6. But yeah, these fake fans, they've given a perception to 6, and they've given a whole perception to the prequels. Well, episodes 2 and 3. It's like, dude, not even, you know what? The more that I think about it, it's not, no, it's 3 also. But like, kind of, it's like only Anakin in 3. But like the rest of 3, it's too much for them to handle. It's like it's too emotionally taxing. But yeah, that's something I wanted to speak about, and it definitely fits into that. 17 minutes later, I will actually answer the question. It changes a lot. It's like whatever my mood is. Oh God, this is so hard because I don't want to, when I say it, then everyone's going to be like, you said your favorite trilogy is, how are you saying this now? I'm like, it changes. You don't understand. Like my Letterboxd, like you know how you can do the 4 favorite films on Letterboxd? Shifting constantly other than Revenge of the Sith, right? But like, other than Revenge of the Sith, the other 3 are just shifting. So it's like, it depends, what the time of day is, what the season is, what you're feeling. Right now, here, let me stare at my posters 1 minute. I'll go originals right now. I've been rewatching those so much lately. I don't know why. I just, like, that's what I've been like. I want to watch Empire. I want to watch A New Hope. I want to watch Jedi. Like, that's just been kind of, yeah, but, I mean, they have Darth Vader, right? Like, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, like, R2, well, I guess R2's in all of them, but, I don't know, like, Yoda, but old Yoda, old Ben. It's just such a cool story. And I'm trying to, because I know everything about the prequels already. Like, there's very few amounts of information that I don't know about the prequels. And it's like, there are not a lot of people on this earth who know more about the prequels than I do. I'm going to be honest. The originals, it's only been in the last year or 2 that I've really, like, looked at them and broken them down. Because I knew the whole character of Luke and whatever, but, like, the story of the that era and that trilogy, I I was versed in it, but I was not mega versed like the prequels, and I'm trying to do that. And the more I go into it, the more I'm like, holy effing shit. You know, it's like it is it is such a good story. Even in the books, like the Legends books, in between the movies, like it adds so much. Like really, it does. It doesn't dilute it like the canon ones. Like, well, I guess the 2015 canon ones were fine. It was the 2020 canon ones that were awful. Um, but yeah, and Legends, all of them are great, obviously. But it's like it adds so much to Luke and adds so much to the story, and it's really cool to see. Um, but yeah, it just is it's such an intricate story, and it's just as political as the prequels, I'd say. You could disagree with that, but it's a very political, because like it's an institutional, radical, imperialist empire, right, against a band of rebels who use scrap to fight this huge empire. But in between it all, there is all these like, intricate, like Andor explored this really well. I'm just gonna say all these just intricate political things where the rebels were getting into the Imperial Senate and trying to make shifts and changes, and they kind of used the Senate not really to make changes because they knew it wouldn't really happen, but like to, I guess, get to know who's on what side and which planets they should be on, and it's like this really cool thing. Um, that's all throughout the trilogy. It's, well, not the trilogy, the era, the timeline between 4 and 6. Um, and the movies were really just following the main crew, but when you go in Legends, like it really goes into, the political aspect of it. And it's really interesting to see kind of how systems affiliated themselves and how some were really like just terrified of the Empire and they just bowed down and kissed their ass out of fear. And some were just too stupid and ridiculous, like Ryloth, and they thought that no one can defeat us. We rebelled once in the Clone Wars, so we'll do it again. And they get their ass whooped. Right? So it's really interesting to see like how these different cultures and factions, like I guess even religions, responded to the Empire. Because it's very different. And the Jedi were like, let's hide and jump out at random points when we need to, but stay hidden because we know that we can't be found out. But then they'd be hunted by Inquisitors. So it's like, I don't know. What the Jedi did in Order 66, I'm not during Order 66, but after, the ones who didn't cut themselves off from the Force, like Quinlan, he did the right thing because he stayed a Jedi like he was a Force user, and he went around and, helped, I guess, keep the Force sensitives in the galaxy safe. Like, the ones who just cut themselves off from the Force, like, bro, what? Like, that is the most, like, wussy pussy ass behavior ever. I'm gonna be honest with you. Or the ones who, like, settled down with a family and, like, left everything behind. I'm like, bro, what? I don't know. Obi-Wan was literally protecting the galaxy's savior from the Empire, so, like, that's an important job. Like, Yoda was... I need to look more into that on why Yoda, like, just stayed hidden the entire time. I think it was because he was trying to commune with Qui-Gon. But that is one thing. It's so weird because you'd think that's such a basic thing to look up. I haven't yet. I don't even really know for sure. But I'm pretty sure it was to really connect with the Force more and learn more about the mysteries of the Force, because Dagobah is like a very, I guess, Force sensitive planet. Like there's a lot of kind of oddities on there. Like they have the Cave of Evil, right, which is just like it's evil. It's filled with just dark side, just Force energy. It's super dark and crooked. It's Dagobah's a very like kind of scary, mysterious planet. But yeah, and I'd say there's more dark side elements in there than light for sure. So I don't know. I think Yoda is just trying to learn how he screwed up and like how to change, and just really wanted to grow in strength with the Force. That's my guess. And in Revenge of the Sith, he said we'll stay hidden until the time is right. So maybe he was like chilling and kind of delaying time until Luke was old enough, and then he'd go train him. I don't know. I think maybe that's another option. I have to look into it though. But yeah, like the OT is just as complex as the prequels. It's just even more. It's more difficult to, I guess, see it because you really have to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and overanalyze things like sentences said by Lando at Cloud City that are explored in Legends more. Lando's an example of just bending over to the Empire. Like he just was like, all right, fine, anything to protect my city, it's fine. And he knew. I'm pretty sure he knew in his mind that they would not have a fair deal with him because it's the Empire. But he's too scared to do anything. And then finally, Han is kind of the one. Seeing his great friend Han get thrown into carbonite and he feels the guilt for that is really what pushes him over the edge to finally be like, you know what, I've had it, so. Yeah, I love the OT. It's just a beautiful story, as are the prequels. I'm not saying, oh, this is better. It's not better. It's like just as good, but right now I prefer the original trilogy, as of now. But in like, who knows, in 2 weeks, I could be saying I prefer the prequels, right? Like, I don't know. So, after 27 minutes of one question, we move on to the next. Who is your favorite Star Wars mentor? Well, I'm just going to be basic. I'm going to say Yoda, specifically Yoda in Empire. The lessons he teaches there are the purest lessons you could be taught as a human being. And everything he teaches Luke in that movie, he's really teaching you. Like George is telling the audience, at the same time. Which was really one of George's many intentions with Star Wars was just to, teach good in the world and to teach the world that there is a religion and there is something there, and he does that perfectly with Empire, and he does it in a way where he's still keeping a layer of mystery to it so that you, as the viewer, have to really break down what Yoda's saying and try to get a good grasp and understand it, and you have to understand religion and see where it takes you, right? That's really, I think, one of the goals with Yoda's character and in Empire, not only just being a good story and training Luke, he's training you. Like, you just listen to what Yoda says. If you really pay attention, like, that is one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars is with Yoda training Luke and the part where he talks about the Force, all around us, and that scene specifically, and then he lifts the X-Wing, like, that not even, really every scene on Dagobah is a lesson in one way or another. Like, even the start, Luke crashes, sees this weird frog with big ears, who's a rascal, going through all his stuff, doesn't take him seriously, just wants him to F off, he just wants to go to Yoda now, right? I don't care about you, I don't care about what you are, what you're doing here, I want to go to Yoda. I want to go to him now. The old frog man, is now giving him a meal and treating him like a guest, even though he's never seen his face before. And Luke's still like, when are we going to go to Yoda? Like, basically disregarding the food. Looks at the food, he's like, what the hell is this? Right? It's like this nasty survival stew, like, ugh, you know? And then Yoda reveals himself, you know, saying the boy is not ready, because Yoda was testing him the whole time. And that's a lesson of, I guess, not judging someone's appearances and taking everyone seriously, no matter how small or stupid they look, or big and stupid they look, or evil they look. You don't really know till you are around them. And how it's a dual lesson, because it's also a lesson in patience, and how you need to just chill out, wait for things to happen. Not everything is going to happen immediately. You know, things take time. That's a huge, huge piece to that lesson as well. And then Luke realizes, and he feels like an idiot. And this is like one of my favorite, like, little 1 second, 5 second moments in cinema history. They use physical irony. So Luke's saying, Ben, tell him I'm ready. Ben, tell him I'm ready. I can be a Jedi. And he gets up, like he's rising up. His ego's rising up. The roof is like, boom. He's like, ow. And he sits back down. And he's like, fuck, man. That is another lesson. You know, and it's don't let your ego get a hold of you. And that, no, you're not always ready for the next step and the biggest thing. And, oh, I'm ready to be him now because I did one step of I took one step, so now I'm ready. It's like, no, you're not. And at some point, that roof will always hit your head, right? Like, at some point, you're going to say, oh, I'm ready. That roof is going to hit your head at some point. And we see that with Luke later in the movie. He says, I'm ready to fight Darth Vader. I defeated an illusion of him in a cave, which I'm not understanding that as another life lesson, which is to not, let your fear consume you, right? And not to let the dark side consume you. That's the whole lesson of the cave of evil, that whole part. Luke ignores that and sees it in a different lens of, oh, I beat him in the vision, so I can beat him in person. And, oh, I have to save my friends. Which he doesn't even know if that's true. He doesn't know for sure. And, like Anakin, who had the weird dreams and visions of Padme dying, Luke does the same thing. He's like, all right, I'm going to ignore the Jedi Grand Master Yoda, and I'm going to ignore Ben, who got me to this place. I'm going to ignore my mentors completely and do my own thing. Obi-Wan tells him, I cannot help you if you're going to make this decision. He's like, fine, it's okay. I've got this, guys. Like, smiling. I've got this. I'll be back. Don't worry, guys. See ya. He goes, what does he do? Walks up to Darth Vader like he's going to whoop his ass, right? He's like flinging his saber out, like he's all like this. So at this point, his ego is so high right now. Vader counters his moves, looks like, fine. Oh, okay, you're a little more difficult than I thought. Walks in. Vader flings his saber out and looks like shit. Luke rolls down the stairs. And now at this point, Luke is scared. He's like, this is not at all the guy fought on Dagobah. And then when Luke kicks Vader down the, kind of shaft, and you see Luke kind of get a little like, oh, that was pretty good. But the moment he goes down into the, I don't even know what that room is called. You know what I'm talking about. He goes through that tube and then into the other room where, Vader throws a bunch of metal at him. You just see the fear in his eyes, and in every movement. He hears a door shut and he, freaks out. So this all occurs, And then you have John Williams be John Williams, and you have the duel starting to play, which is one of my favorite pieces of his from Star Wars. Um, and it's this underlying, scary, eerie, like this really weird feel, and you feel like something dark is in the shadows. And then you hear I think is it horns? You hear brass. I'm gonna play it safe. You hear brass start to play. Dun, dun, dun. And then the Imperial March plays. And at that point, Luke is so scared that he just is overwhelmed, doesn't know what to do. Vader's tossing things at him. He's like getting hit. And the Imperial March is striking Luke with fear as he's being hit by metal. Dun 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 dun. The music is a metaphor for Luke being hit by the metal and being struck by fear. That is literally, the music is striking Luke with fear. It's Vader striking Luke with fear. That is the whole point of that track. And why there isn't a lot of music in that duel, that's really the only track, because it's all of John Williams' music should serve a metaphorical and it should have meaning. It should propel the plot forward, and sometimes there are very few times you don't need it, and we didn't need it earlier in the duel, but at that point we needed to really understand what was going on, and John Williams obviously nailed it like he always does. And then, as soon as the piece of metal strikes through the window, Luke flies out. You hear this, it sounds like the score starts to fall with Luke. And it's like this terrifying, string, I guess, piece. And it's like you hear Luke falling without hearing Luke falling. It's just like in the piece. So now we get to Luke getting back up, and he's just horrified at this point. He's purely on the defensive. He just wants out. So Luke, we cut back to the fight. Vader jump scares him out of the shadows. You see Luke jump back, and at this point, Vader's like, I've had it with you. You're an idiot. You're not getting the point. You're not understanding that I can just destroy you in 1 second now. So now I'm actually going to fight you. And at that point in time, Vader now is just fighting. He's beating down on Luke Skywalker. He doesn't care. He's my son. He's beating down on him. He throws him to the ground, and then he waits a little bit. He's taunting him more, kind of with a grin on his face. Then he's fighting Luke more. This time he's like, okay, I'll chill out a little bit. Luke hits him on the shoulder. He's like, all right, I'm done. And at this point, he's in full Vader mode. After Luke hits him on the shoulder, he's like, I am done. This is embarrassing that he even touched me. Strikes the metal down, cuts his hand off. And that is the exact same move he did earlier, but earlier he was just playing with Luke, so he flung the saber out of his hand instead of cutting Luke's hand off. But this time, you see him switch, because now he's in full Vader mode. Just boom, one hit, done. And then the hand chop is Luke bumping his head on the roof. And that was a big emotional hit for him. I just completely failed. Ben and Yoda were right. I just flunked myself. I screwed myself over. So if he had listened to Yoda and listened to Ben and stayed on Dagobah, then, he never would have had this confrontation with Vader. And he never would have been pushed to the dark side this much. Because once Vader revealed that, he was Luke's father, and, Luke just lost trust in everything. His whole world shattered. This is the guy he despised, he hated, he wanted to kill, he wanted to destroy. And now it's his father, and Ben lied to him, right? It's he's like, what is this? So at that point in time, that starts Luke's journey down to where he is in Return of the Jedi, which is he's wearing all black. He's, kind of become his own Jedi. He's not adhering exactly to the old ways. He's very powerful because he does sometimes you know, he twinges to the dark in Return of the Jedi. It's the only reason he beat Vader, in my opinion. But yeah, he swings to darkness a little bit. There's a lot of conflict in him at that moment when he's on the Falcon and the Executors chasing after the Falcon. And Vader's calling out to Luke through the Force. And this is where, by the way, if you thought the Force dyad BS was original from the sequels, it's like, no, it's not. Vader and Luke literally did it in Empire. And before that, Leia and Luke did it in Empire. So it's like, dude. But yeah, so I thought I'd really go into that and explain the bump on the head, because that's a big... That scene in Star Wars, which I think I portrayed really well, explained really well, is a massive pivotal point in Luke's character arc, and it's a massive lesson to the audience that's disguised as just another scene. And this is what George does. He's like, I'm not gonna shove my, lessons and make this some weird indie thing and shove my messages down your throat. This isn't like a Disney movie where, not like in a bad way shove it down your throat, but like, I'm not making it blatantly obvious I'm teaching you. You have to want to learn in order to learn the lesson I'm teaching you. You have to want it. I'm not just going to give it to you. Like Disney movies, they always have some message and it's very obvious and blatant. In Star Wars, it's not. Like Yoda speaks in riddles. If you're not really spending the time to understand what he's saying, you can know what he says. You could audibly hear, do or do not, there is no try, and go, oh yeah, that's an iconic quote. Or you could understand that quote and say, wait, so I need to do it. I need to do what I need to do. Or I just shouldn't. Because the trying is useless. Because when you try, you're not putting your full effort in. You're not giving it your all. And that's just going to be the biggest just discouragement to you, and you're never going to do it ever again because you tried. You gave it, you half-assed, right? And then you'll say, well, I tried my best. Like, no, you didn't. If you want to do something, you need to do it or not do it. That is what do or do not, there is no try means. That's another lesson. The Force is a lesson in itself when he's talking about, the Force is all around us, the tree, the lake, the animals, the birds, right? Between us, right? It's a lesson about the Holy Spirit. Like, exactly. That is what it is, It's always around everyone, every living thing, permanently, And the X-Wing lift thing. Luke's like, oh, it's too big. Yoda looks past the physical world, and he just looks at it as just a thing. It's just an item. It's fine. It's not that deep. And he's able to lift it out of the water with ease. But Luke's like, oh, it's big. And he's looking at it very technically, and Yoda's looking at it spiritually. And spiritually, that X-Wing means nothing. Right? So that is why Yoda's able to just lift it up like that. Another lesson. So therefore, with this film alone, and this doesn't include the stuff in Jedi or the prequels. I haven't even gotten to that yet, which those are whole other lessons. But just from this film alone, just defines Yoda as my favorite Star Wars mentor. I mean, easily. Yeah, so that was a great question. And I really, again, these are actually way better questions than I've been getting before. It's not just... I'm glad that someone asked who's my favorite character. That's great. But, when I got asked again, I was like, oh no, is this going to kind of be what it's like? But these are great questions. They're unique. The next thing is someone asked me what I think about the whole Denis Villeneuve, his thoughts on Star Wars and how he never wants to make a Star Wars project and all this crap, and how the stuff he said about Return of the Jedi and George. And in my opinion is, I think what he said, I've really I went over it a little bit earlier, not, including him in that, but, it's like he's too kind of nitwitted and cocky to understand that that's George's story and that's the direction George went. And he's saying how Return of the Jedi didn't feel special and didn't feel unique, or it felt like Star Wars had a formula, and that doesn't make sense because there is no film on earth like Return of the Jedi. You can't show me one and say it like there isn't one. Like Return of the Jedi is Return of the Jedi. There's no copy of it. Like it's so weird and so unique. I mean, Jedi rocks. What movie could you find that in? None. Right? Like Ewoks, walking teddy bears with who aren't just these nice little cute things. Like kind of they're like these tribal crazy. They're crazy. They're tribal and they're crazy. Like you'd expect to see, these scary looking dudes. Like, no, they're just like teddy bears who have a culture and have a way of life. That's very interesting to me. And he also said that it's made Star Wars kiddish. It's like it's kiddish. No, it's not. Just because there are Ewoks, which I don't understand what is he even saying? Oh, Star Wars is it's made that just made Star Wars so kiddish, and it's just such a kiddish franchise that doesn't have any blah blah blah. It's like, no, Star Wars has always been kid friendly. It's not kiddish. Obviously, like I've been talking about for the last 40 minutes, there's so much depth to these stories. But these snotty film people who don't really understand storytelling, don't really understand how to break a story down, and don't understand how to see messages and lessons within these stories, will call Star Wars kiddish and not cinematic and all their stupid, it's not cinema, it's not just because it's a franchise and there are multiple films and it's not some French film from the 20s. You know what I'm talking about? Like, this is who Denis is. He's one of those people, clearly, and that's upsetting because I really respected him until now. Like, this is just stupid. Like, I don't even know. Oh, I don't like Return of the Jedi because there's Ewoks in it. So therefore I don't like Star Wars anymore. Oh, I wanted to drive to George's house and just be like, why did you do this? Why did you ruin Star? Like, that's the BS. These people, they think they know everything already and they're unwilling to learn. Absolutely unwilling to learn. And it's so annoying. I am constantly looking to learn more things about Star Wars. And if I get something wrong or I misunderstand something, I want to understand it the right way. I'm not going to sit there and defend a statement that doesn't make sense. Like, if anything I said today was wrong, I'd love to know and hear someone explain to me why. If they can explain why, then I'll be able to tell if what I said wasn't true or if it was, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, this perspective of, oh, it's not how I wanted to do it, so therefore it's not how it should have been done at all. Like, this is George Lucas, right? Like, this isn't anyone else who got in Star Wars and screwed it up. Like, this is the creator of Star Wars. So, of course, this is how the plot should have gone because it's how he wanted it. Like, this is the creator made this decision, right? I just don't understand. It's stupid. I'd understand that if, like, you were talking about Star Wars now. It's cookie cutter now. They just choose from a bunch of different cookie cutters they have. Like, oh, let's make it this like Spielberg films. Let's copy Steven Spielberg's style and probably ruin it and make a Star Wars project out of it. That's Skeleton Crew, cookie cutter plot. Boom. The Last Jedi. Let's take a big main character and make them a weak, deranged, old, crazy person. That's become a cookie cutter in Hollywood now. So there you go. The Force Awakens. Let's not use anything unique. Let's stay with stormtroopers, TIE fighters, and X-Wings, and an evil empire versus a rebel alliance. Let's use that cookie cutter. There you go. Like that. This is where I could see you saying it's cookie cutter, right? Because it is. Or, oh, we need to go on a quest to find a map. That's been done in Star Wars now like 100 times. So that's a cookie cutter, right? There's all these different cookie cutters. So in modern day Star Wars, I'd understand that, but like back then it was not. Like every project was so unique, and that's objective. Like people didn't like Jedi and didn't like Phantom Menace because of how weird they were and how unique, and it made them uncomfortable to see a film that really like leapt and went the mile. That didn't just hold themselves back because they didn't want to be unique. Like these films were unique and they were stood out, and that's, amazing. And there was absolutely nothing cookie cutter about Return of the Jedi. You could argue. The only argument you could have about the Return of the Jedi being cookie cutter is the Death Star 2 thing. Sure, whatever. I don't think it is. I think it serves a different plot point in the film, and it was put there as a plot device in a different way than the Death Star was. Like, it wasn't put there to be the big MacGuffin of the movie, I guess the Death Star plans were the MacGuffin in 4, but I guess, like, I don't know. The Death Star in 4 was, like, the thing that Luke would destroy to make him the hero he's meant to be. In Death Star 2, that's not the case at all. Luke has nothing to do with blowing it up. He's meant to go to defeat, bring his father back to the light side. That's the whole point of why he's there. It's very much a side plot, and it's there really to, I don't know, serve a different plot. And I could go into that more. But I'm at 51 minutes already. But yeah, it's like it's not the same in terms of, the reason why it exists. Like, it should be, George was like, oh, I want this huge, big, ginormous threat that we have not seen yet, that's like bigger than the Death Star, and that's more intimidating, right? So what's more intimidating than a planet-killing weapon that's triple the size of the first one and has a shield radiated from another planet with a super laser that can destroy a planet, recharge in 20 minutes, and destroy another planet? That is terrifying. That is actually, like, there is no other route you could go. What, a big Star Destroyer? He already did that in Empire, and that wasn't even a plot. It was just, like, there, So, like, that's what I say to people. I'm like, what would be another huge threat like that? Like, I'm like, there isn't one, right? So, and again, it serves a different part of the story, like I explained earlier. This isn't the same. Yeah, so anyways, my point being is I absolutely disagree with the first part of what Denis was saying about, how Return of the Jedi is weird because of the Ewoks and how Star Wars lost its way after Empire. And it's like, that's stupid. And it's very clear that he thinks he just is better than the whole world and what he does. And, it's just such a stupid, snotty thing to say. Because it's just not true. Like, it's objectively not true. Like, there is nothing cookie cutter about Return of the Jedi. There is nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing. And like I said, the closest thing you could say to that would be Death Star 2. That's it. That is it. That's the only tiny microscopic argument you'd have. And even that, I could disprove. So, kind of, like I said earlier, I don't know. That's just such a stupid statement, and it was annoying. But yeah, absolutely. Right now, if he's talking about he'd never work on Star Wars now, I completely understand that. I absolutely understand that. Because they will just control the hell out of you, I'm sure, and try to throw agendas in your project, and if you don't, they'll cancel your product. which I feel like is kind of why the Ray movie keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed, is because I think they're not finding a writer who's as woke as the director, and that would cause a big conflict. So, when they brought Stephen Knight on the job, I was like, there is no he's gonna make a good script. Like, he's Stephen Knight, he made Peaky Blinders. He's gonna make a great script, but he's not an activist, so he is not gonna write some feminist glory piece. And him interacting with Charmin, like, I don't know, that's so weird, dude. Yeah. Of course, Charmin isn't really a movie storyteller, so she can't write her own movie, of course. What a joke, dude. But she's a documentary filmmaker. That doesn't mean you can make Star Wars, right? I know George was, but like, well, no. Well, he wasn't. He was going to be. He made a couple, and then his path shifted. Charmin is currently a documentary filmmaker, and making a documentary compared to making a film is a very different thing. And documentaries, you already kind of have your plot. You just have to arrange it in a way, and tell a story. I'm not trying to demean documentary filmmaking, because it's a whole nother skill set, and it's just as hard as making a movie. There's so many elements and tons of research that has to go into it, but devising your own original story and scripting it, and that's a totally different ballgame than saying, I want to make a piece on this, let's say, historical event or person or figure or figures or group of people, where you already have the history of that people that you use and arrange in your own way. You don't have the pieces for filmmaking, and it's this new original story. Why would you hire someone like this, right? It's purely because she's a huge feminist. That is why she was hired, not because she's a good storyteller, right? She has not directed a film. She has directed a documentary. I don't even understand. I just don't. It's stupid. Yeah. I don't even know how I got to her from Villeneuve, but yeah. I thought that guy was a Star Wars fan, for a while, because he brought up Empire a couple times, but I guess not. He just is over it after Jedi. Yeah, Jedi is not good enough for his, I guess, snobbiness, his film snobbiness, so I don't know. I can't see a way where I'd be misunderstanding his quote. That seems pretty understandable. I don't like Return of the Jedi. Star Wars lost its mythological feel at the start of 6. My God, what an idiot, dude. Oh yeah, but I'm gonna ignore the whole piece with Luke saving his father from the dark side, which was never happened in movies. It was always a good guy kills a bad guy. They interviewed people at the premiere of Return of the Jedi, people who went to see it opening night, and they're like, yeah, Luke's gonna have to kill Vader, but I love Vader and I secretly wish he'd just destroy Luke, right? I've seen interviews of people at 1983 at the premiere saying stuff like that. And then you saw them walking out and they're like, I did not expect that. That was so cool. It's this is what I'm saying. There's nothing cookie cutter about that movie, dude. Jedi Rocks alone. There is nothing on Earth like that weird. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars. Because there's nothing like it. It's so cool. You see all these different creatures. You have Boba Fett just standing there. It's like an old, I feel like it's like a jazz bar in a underground mafia club. But totally different and totally Star Wars-ized. It's not the same feel because it's weird, I don't know. It's awesome. But yeah, that's my comment, my thoughts. I feel I lost a bit of respect for him there, and it's yeah, your Dune movies are not even close to as good as freaking Star Wars. And yeah, you can't compare the two. And that's another thing. If you see a Star Wars fan comparing the two, yeah, hell no. People are not going to look at Dune Part 2 in fucking 10 years or 15 years, whatever the hell, and go, that movie grew me as a kid, and no. That alone, bro, what the fuck? And then they're oh, the music. Oh, John Williams, you know, oh, this is, it couldn't even get fucking nominated for best score because it was not fully original, because all the tracks were from, just adapted from the previous film. I'm like, oh my god. These people are just being proven wrong at every step of the way. Such clowns. There's no Dune fandom. It's, if there is, it's like freaking minuscule. Right? Like, I don't even, minuscule. It's like fucking atom sized, right? Compared to us, we're huge. Even the real fans, you know, there's a very, I think we're in the minority now, but there is still a ton of us. So yeah, just, it's funny. It's funny seeing these film bros say the most stupid shit because they have to pretend like you know, they have to like these indie, it's Dune. I really liked Dune Part 2. You know, I did. As a film, I liked it, you know, but it's not comparable to Star Wars. And, you know, it's funny seeing these like letterboxed boys, like, you know, because they have to like those like Hollywood, like, you know, super, I don't even know how to describe it, like these aesthetic and film boy movies, right? And that's what Dune is. So it's like, it's just obnoxious. It's so obnoxious. It's the same thing with like A24, and that whole audience is like the worst. They're super snotty and annoying. And like the only movies they like, they're like, oh, this piece of writing and this cinematography in this scene, oh, best picture because of the cinematography. It's like, oh, the editing and the aesthetic and the indie feel. It's like, oh god. Talk about zero creativity, bro. A24 fucking wins. It's all just like the blandest shit ever. And they just give it an indie vibe, and all the film bros want to fucking nut all over it, their movies. Like, Everything Everywhere All at Once was basically a mockery of Marvel, and it did a horrible job at doing superhero stuff. Like, horrible. I hate that movie. And it's like, man, these people, just because they gave it an indie vibe, then now they're going to love it. I'm like, these fucking bitch-ass motherfuckers. They're the reason why there is no good movies out right now. Because they have made this obligation to, you know, with the Academy, who are also filled with a bunch of idiots, and kind of the world that indie films are in, and that's what we want to see now, is a bunch of indie films with weird plot lines that are all rated R so that no kids can see them, right? It's like, that's what is in right now. And it's annoying, and everything has to be small. There can't be action in it. And this is why movies have been doing horrible lately, because there is so much of that shit, like, just injected throughout the years now. Like, and it doesn't perform well. It has no lasting impact on the audience. You know, they're not going to be talking about that movie in 10 years. There are very few indie movies that actually, like, last. You know, Star Wars, believe it or not, the indie film, Letterboxd boys would hate when I say this, Star Wars was indie. All 6 of these movies were indie. Well, 5 of them were. These were only funded by George Lucas himself. So Fox funded 4, right? And it made a bunch of profit, and George cut the deal with Fox so that they had zero control over his movies, right? So now Fox only had the home video rights, so they were the ones to distribute the movie on DVD and stuff. So that's the only power they had, is to distribute it. But they didn't provide the budget at all. So that's why you still see the logo, because they distributed it, right? So Star Wars, right? George makes a bunch of money. What does he do with the money? Can't even see. He makes Empire, right? Then he takes the money from these two. He makes Jedi, right? And now at this point, he's filthy rich from the trilogy, from the DVDs, the merchandise. He takes a bunch of that money, makes episode 1, uses all of his money, makes episode 2, and uses his money and makes episode 3. That's an indie film. It's funded by him. It's not funded by a big studio. It's funded by one guy. George Lucas funded all 5 of these movies, dude. And even in A New Hope, he took some money out of his pocket and put it towards the movie. So it's like, they're indie movies. Literally all 6 of them. you know, but now indie's become a vibe, like this feel. It's not like actually an independent film. Like that's not A24, that is not an independent film studio. It's not. It's has a big CEO, they have big budgets, right? Like that's what it's not fun. No, these movies aren't funded by one or two people. It's funded by a studio with multiple rotating directors, right? It's like it's not indie. It's not. It's just they like the feel of it, and then these letterbox people think that that's like such a like, ooh, I'm so much better than the world because I like these movies with like unclear storylines and foggy. Ooh, I'm such a film student. It's like, no, you're not. Fuck off, dude. Star Wars has a way better of a story than half these films. And you know what? Screw French movies from the 20s, bro. They're the most boring things ever. It's just them yapping and have weird little cinematography bits. And then it makes you want to fall asleep, dude. Stupid. Citizen Kane, sure, great for the time, revolutionary. Boring ass movie. Okay? I'm gonna be honest with you. Boring ass movie. And if anyone tells you their favorite movie, Citizen Kane, they're the fakest person alive. I'm going to be honest with you. The fakest person alive. No one would voluntarily say, I'm going to watch Citizen Kane today. It's the most boring shit ever. Anyways, so yeah, that's my thoughts on indie filmmakers infesting cinema, and one of them, unfortunately, being Villeneuve. Wouldn't say I hate him. I don't hate him. I will still watch Dune Part 3 because I liked the first two. Dune 1 was boring as all hell, but Dune 2 was great. I really, really liked that film. And it's one of the better science fiction films. Star Wars is not science fiction, by the way. So that's not including Star Wars. But in that genre of actual science fiction that uses realistic technologies like science with a layer of fiction. Star Wars is fantasy. It's not even science fiction, but yeah, it's, I think, one of the best science fiction films. 2001, another example of a film that all the film bros love, but it's the worst film I've ever seen. It is it's horrible. Like, there are so many, I'd love to go in that movie and recut it. Like, it is so bad. It's actually like it's one of the worst movies ever made. Like, hands down. It's not even, and again, the people who like it just like it because it's a weird film movie that colleges like to show kids to brainwash them into liking that kind of style. So, yeah. Great. Moving on. Will you watch Skeleton Crew? Yes, I will watch Skeleton Crew. I will watch the first episode, maybe first two, and we'll go from there. If it's Acolyte level bad, then I'll just not. Still cover it, maybe. But no, I'm not going to, what's it called? Not going to put myself through another Acolyte, I'll still kind of read the plot online, but I won't watch it. If it's that bad in the first two episodes, I'm just not. But yeah, I'll start on the premiere. Can't imagine it'll be as bad as the Acolyte or worse. That just can't happen. It'll probably, from what I've seen, it looks like it's shit, from the clips I've seen, and it's just way too similar to Earth, and, I don't know. But yeah, if it just stays like that, I'll just sit through it, because, at least I can point out the shit elements. Yeah. Have you thought about applying your channel to be a Lucasfilm? Oh, God. Yeah, so, Lucasfilm, affiliate channel. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Lucasfilm fan site, that's what it's really called. I did. I sent an email because, I thought, I just want to see what they say. Because I know that they're not going to, and I speak the truth. I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. I want you all to know that. I'm going to speak the truth. But I wanted to see how they'd respond to it. So I wrote my email, like it's shifted towards them. you know, very well, very much so targeted towards their current team. I'm playing it. I want to see. I want to see what they'll say. Um, they will probably see a title of my video, "The Shill Squadron Attacks," and immediately blacklist me. So I probably, by sending that email, got myself blacklisted. Do I care? Hell no. But is it just a fun little game to play? Yeah, you know. So I just, yeah. I hopefully will get them to email me back at some point saying something. That would just be probably hilarious. They'll probably be like, "You are not a gay, homosexual man who barely even likes Star Wars and will shill for us at any point in time." You know, that's probably really what they'll say. I'll laugh my ass off. If they send that, I will put it on the channel, actually, and show you guys. And I'll read the email I sent, too. Who knows, maybe they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, sure." That would be the most hilarious shit in the world. Oh my gosh. To, like, be part of it and not be a show. I know that won't happen because I have insiders and, you know, Theory himself, obviously, who's said that, you know, you see the way they treat him, so I don't think they ever will. But it was just a funny little game to play. I was, like, bored. Might as well. So, yeah. IDKY people say just... I don't get why shills keep saying that the sequels are the only bad part of Disney Star Wars when there's products like Book of Boba Fett, The Acolyte, that are even worse. Yeah, I could... That's the thing, man. You know, I see that from one lens, but from another lens, there's a separate weight carried when you are continuing the legacy of Star Wars from a brand new standpoint. And there's rules you need to adhere, and I honestly wouldn't do it without George kind of approving it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never would have expanded Star Wars by myself necessarily, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it's George's story, and if he wanted to expand it, he would. And he actually did expand it for Lucasfilm, and he has 3, I'm sure, beautiful scripts that are sitting in the Lucasfilm archives, locked away, that they didn't use. They bought his scripts from him just to lock them away so no one would see them. But yeah, I'd love to read those at one point. That would be the most, like, riveting experience. Just reading 3 more George Lucas Star Wars movies. That would be the coolest thing ever. I'm telling you. I'm sure they'd be awesome. Well, I pretty much know that because I've heard the plot and it just sounds amazing. But yeah, the sequels I'd say destroyed Star Wars the most because they, like, destroyed the whole, like, it's not just this... Well, the Acolyte destroyed... That's not true. Yeah, the Acolyte destroyed Star Wars the most. I try to block it from my mind, so I, like... Yeah. Obviously. But that's, like, obvious. So, yeah, the Acolyte is obviously the worst thing. You guys know that. The worst Star Wars product ever. And it destroyed Star Wars the most. It, like, ruined episode 1 canonically, you know, and now Lucasfilm themselves is ignoring it. It's not even in the Star Wars encyclopedia, the new one. There's not one mention of it. It's like, it's hilarious. But yeah, it's bad. That's horrible. But the sequels, I'd say, are much worse than... Because, like, Book of Boba, it fucked Boba's character, but it didn't fuck the entire Star Wars universe. Like, the sequels fucked the whole Star Wars universe. It killed off Luke and made him a grump and ruined his character. They killed off Leia and ruined her character and killed off Han and ruined his character. So there are barely any interesting characters left that are alive in the Star Wars universe at that time, which is really scary and really sad, but it's true. So... Just saying, man, you know, at least now we have Mando and Boba who might still be around, but who knows, they could kill one of them off or something, both of them off at some point before. Yeah, because I feel like Mando would have. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe he's in another galaxy now because they made that galaxy to like have a separate story outside of the sequels because they know they're so bad. They're like, let's give people another sequel trilogy, but it's Mando now. I don't know. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I'd say that the sequels destroyed Star Wars way more than anything else. I mean, Boba Fett's complete shit, other than those two episodes and at the end. Episode 5 and episode 6 of that show are great, but other than those two, it's just shit, and those two don't even have Boba in it, so yeah, I understand that from one standpoint. I guess kind of understand that from one standpoint, because they're just like horribly written scripts. Like the sequels, like I say, if Luke wasn't treated the way he was and it was just some other Jedi recluse and like they did the Force right, I'd be okay with that movie. I'm being honest with you. It would not be the direction I want to go. I wouldn't love it. It still would probably be maybe second least favorite Star Wars movie, if they did that. I don't know, because then that would have been a good script, right? Because The Last Jedi has a good script. It's just not Star Wars, right? They fucked Luke and they fucked the story of Stars. They fucked the Force, right? So then that's like not good anymore. It's shit at that point because that shouldn't have been a Star Wars film, right? I don't know. It's like this thing. Like the conceptual, I guess, story plot of 8 was not bad. And Theory has said this himself as well. It's a good film, but it is a terrible Star Wars project. It's like, yeah. So I get kind of from that standpoint of writing, yeah, 8 is not the worst thing that we've seen. But from a Star Wars standpoint, it's right above the Acolyte, so yeah. So I understand that, kind of. I love Kylo. That's one thing that I will defend. I really like Kylo Ren. I think he's a very interesting and cool character. Obviously, they just ripped from Legends to create him. That's why he's interesting and why he's cool at all, because they just tore from Legends. What's his name? Goodness gracious Lord. It's like Jason Solo, but they gave him a cool mask, That's really who he is. It's like one of Luke's apprentices who quit on him and turn to the dark side. Yeah, it's the whole concept of the character came from Legends, so it's just funny. God, there's even, I think someone is named Ben in Legends too. Ben Solo, I think. Is he in Legends or Ben someone in the timeline named Ben, and they ripped that from Legends as well. So there might be a Ben Solo in Legends. I'm not super well versed in Legends after 6. I get the very general understanding, but I've read the books, but I need to read them more, to be honest. But yeah, I get that from one standpoint, and I think the First Orders, as much as they are just kind of a complete continuation of the Empire, they are cool, and I like seeing their advanced technology and their slick, nice looking stormtrooper armor, and how they're just even more crazy than the Empire was. Like, they're just psychotic and just hell-bent on just destroying everything and restarting. It's a very cool concept. It just wasn't executed well throughout the films. I have a First Order Stormtrooper helmet and I have a Kylo Ren helmet because I think they're cool conceptually, and I'm rewriting the sequels right now, actually, which I'll won't give you access to the script, but I will read parts of it and summarize parts of it, and your mind will be fucking exploding at the fact how I'm using the First Order, I'm using Kylo Ren, I'm using Rey, I'm using Finn, but I'm doing it right. And I'm going to show you how that still could have made an amazing, beautiful trilogy if they did it right. Even not using George's script, right? I'm showing you how it should have been done. So that's going to be really cool. And who knows when that will be done. But yeah. This was insanely long of a video. This is probably the longest video I've had in forever. But we had a lot of big things to cover. I only have like 6 questions on here, but they were very in-depth. So I want you guys to send me more of those if you can. But again, if you have a simple question you want to ask it, you know. But yeah. And if you want to ask questions, DM Galactic Transmissions on Instagram. If you want to DM questions. But yeah, this is insanely long. I highly, highly doubt there's any people watching this part of the video, or maybe you skipped to it. But yeah, maybe there's one out of the 50, 60 of you, 80 of you, probably 60, 50 on this one that waited. And if you did, you're goated. If not, I understand. So I will see you guys in the next video. Yeah, may the force be with you always. Thanks for the questions. Bye-bye.